Hey guys, it's Brian and Kat. We want to give you a little bit of information about what's been going on over the past month or so. First of all, I want to start by saying some of you are just here to work out. You just want to come, see encouraging comments, and work out together and be part of a community, and you don't want any part of this. And if that's you, you can hit stop right now and go back to what you're doing.
Yeah, don't have to read the copy. I get it. But there are others out there that really do feel like they deserve to know what's going on.
They want to know and they deserve to know what's going on. And so we wanted to take the chance to tell you.
Yeah, and we had to time it right. We've been kind of struggling, obviously, with when to talk about this, what we can talk about. And trust me, he's really... Go ahead.
Yeah, I've wanted to talk about this for a long time. I mean, it's hard to sit there when your wife is being attacked personally and not say something, particularly when there were facts that you didn't know. And
yeah.
I wanted to say this a while ago. It was her who held me back. So she was the one who didn't want to cause any more than was already happening, and so she asked that we wait.
Yeah. So we are going to share some stuff with you that we haven't shared earlier. First thing that I want to say is that this is just, everything that we're going to talk about is just for Studio Sweat On Demand. It has absolutely nothing to do with the brick and mortar facility, which was recently purchased, the facility in San Diego. The guys that purchased this have honored their commitments, and they've done things the right way. So this is just to do with Studio Sweat On Demand, and it's the people that I sold the Studio Sweat On Demand business to, and the staff also that are still working there.
Yeah, and given Kat put so much into Studio Sweat On Demand, you'll probably hear me talk more.
Of course. I mean, Studio Sweat On Demand was my baby. A dozen years or so went into the making, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and I'm so passionate about the community. Not that he's not, because he is, but he's just much better at this. Okay, so let's dig in.
So first thing we want to share is we're going to attach in some way a lawsuit. And that lawsuit is public information, so we're not sharing anything. By the way, in this video, I will share facts. If it's not a fact or an undisputable fact, I will say we believe. We are attaching a lawsuit that is all factual, and it is public, so you could find it on your own. We're doing you the courtesy of just giving it to you.
Everything in the lawsuit has to be factual, obviously.
Has to be factual, of course. So we filed a lawsuit against the people who purchased Studio Sweat On Demand for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, there were two components to the purchase price. There was some money up front, and there was a loan, seller's note, it's called, that Kat, two of them, that Kat gave to them to pay over time the remaining balance, which is a substantial portion of the price.
Yeah, and it was just a way to help them get a low interest loan, because small business loans are pretty expensive. So I did that to help them. And it was, like you said, it was kind of a large portion of the agreed upon purchase price.
So they stopped paying that loan a little bit past the midpoint of last year, and haven't paid since. We tried to work with them on it, and we're not able to get them to continue paying. So we tried for months and months to work with them on it. There was a second piece of it, that another loan that required them to provide financial information to us on the status of the business. They were not doing that either. So they were in default on both of those loans. And we tried and had no choice but to take action. That's two pieces of the three. There's a third piece, and there's a lot more detail. I'm trying to spare you that. There's a third piece of this. There was a program called the ERTC, Employee Retention Tax Credit, that had to do with COVID. I know COVID seems like a long time ago, but believe it or not, it's still here. So during COVID, when the brick and mortar studio was shut down, and we were struggling as a brick and mortar studio,
we lost pretty much all our revenue.
We did.
Thank you to those that stuck with us, and I get it for those that weren't able
to. Kat kept paying the trainers for months when they were not teaching.
Like all the staff.
The staff,
yeah.
The trainers and the staff.
Manager,
So they were being paid for work they were not doing. Now Studio Sweat On Demand, different, but for a brick and mortar, they were being paid for work they weren't doing. And she did that because it was the right thing to do. She didn't want people to suffer. She didn't want them to go on unemployment. She decided to do that out of her own pocket. And by the way, including some of those individuals who spoke out against her. They were paid during that time.
I don't know that they knew the details of all of this. Of course,
yes, they didn't. But there was no indication that the government was going to do anything. She didn't do it because she was expecting to get money back. She did it because it was the right thing to do. Now, sometime during COVID, the government decided, hey, for those companies who retained employees, we think it's important that you get some sort of compensation for it. So they came up with a plan, and it was a tax credit. So you couldn't get money for not having paid the government money. It was a refund for a portion of payroll taxes that were paid on behalf of employees in the first half of 2021. Mm-hmm. Okay, so 2021. Kat paid every dime of taxes on the business in 2021, including payroll taxes. Filed her taxes on time. That seems like a long time ago. It took us 2 years to apply for the benefits of this program, hundreds of hours of both of our own work, help from a third party. Took the government a long time to review it. We finally got approved in the fall for a retention tax credit related to 2021. The checks were inadvertently mailed to the new owners of Studio Sweat On Demand.
Chuck Smith and Jordan Wing, yeah.
And they cashed them and acknowledged that they did, and would not return the money. Their position was they believe they bought the company, so they were entitled to it. This was related for a refund for taxes that, by the way, when you own a company as the sole owner, are personal income taxes. This was a personal tax refund to Kat, essentially, as the sole owner of that business for taxes that she paid. One of the owners, Chuck, actually acknowledged in a public podcast that he got the checks and cashed them, that he manifested it to happen.
That they were for 2021.
That they were for 2021, that he did nothing to apply for them or earn them, and that
we spent hundreds of hours
and that they helped his personal
financial situation. Yeah.
That's in a public podcast. So we attached a third element to the lawsuit. So I would just pause here and say, like, what would you do if you were in Kat's position? By the way, during this whole time, she's doing her job for the studio, encouraging all of you, doing nothing to try and bring harm to the business while all of this is happening in the background since the middle of last year. She's been the biggest cheerleader. And so what would you do? We were left with no choice. Somebody had posted at one point, who benefits financially from this? We're not trying to benefit financially. We're trying to get what she was owed. And quite honestly, we're not benefiting from this. We're spending a lot of money on legal fees, and we're spending a lot of sweat energy and sweat dollars by stressing about this. And there's been nothing coming in return thus far. So,
but and I didn't really know that, but that's not surprising, I guess. But for me, it's way more about the principle than it is the money. You know, when you commit to purchase a business, you should pay for it. Otherwise, how are those assets yours, right? When you take someone's tax refund, that's, I believe, in my opinion, that's stealing, and that is morally wrong. And so there's a principle behind all of this where people have to understand that they can't do these things without there being, consequences.
Yeah. So all of you right now are probably saying, oh, that must be why you sued them, and therefore Kat's contract was terminated. That's not actually the case. This has been going on since the latter part of last year. The reason that her contract was terminated is because we got notice that the bank seized the assets of the company.
A bank that the new owners had taken a different loan from.
Correct. So the bank seized the assets of the company, and upon that seizure, anybody who was a contractor,
a creditor.
So Kat, as a creditor and contractor, was her contract to provide content was terminated. We believe that the reason we were removed from the group, and we know this now, we didn't know this on the day of, we believe we were removed from the group on that day that they got notice because they were afraid we would tell all of this to you. Despite the fact we haven't told you for 6 or 9 months.
All the other stuff
that was happening, right?
Yeah.
But we believe that's why we were removed. Now, you also may ask, hey, shouldn't you have known this was coming? You acted like you didn't know her contract was going to be terminated. We didn't. Suing somebody for money they owe you is not cause for terminating a contract. In fact, we have very specific language in the contract that says it's not. There was no cause. Kat did her job, and she did it really, really well, and I think you would all agree with that. So her contract was terminated because of the bank. We did not see it coming.
They when a bank seizes assets of another company, the contracts, from what I understand, any contracts that they had with vendors or contractors are kind of null and void.
Yes. So
from what I understand.
In fact, a week or two, I may have the dates slightly wrong, before this happened, we got an email from Jordan to Kat asking her if she would train somebody to take over content upon the expiration of her contract in June. We also had an email from Chuck a week or two before this happened, asking us to please work with him on the lawsuit.
Which this is after they'd ignored us for many months. They'd ignored us, and then I think he realized that they were
up against the deadline.
That we weren't just going to let them get away with doing these things. And so then he did say he wanted to work with us.
He wanted to work with us. He needed an extension on a deadline that was...
Which we gave him.
Because we do that. But then we didn't hear from him again, despite the fact that this email was, if you just give me this extension, I promise we can come to an agreement. So
we did, and then we didn't ever hear back from him.
So no, we didn't see it
Ever
coming.
again.
You can believe us or not, but we really didn't. So on that day, rather than tell you any of this, and I know they said that they couldn't talk for legal reasons. This is the legal reason, but it's a publicly available lawsuit. Rather than say anything, though, they decided to try and gaslight you. They had an individual reach out to former trainers, as you know, to post some videos. I won't dignify any of those comments. But they did that to try and, we believe, they tried to lead you to believe that Kat's contract was terminated for something that she did. That is an absolute lie. There is nothing truthful to that. Her contract was terminated because of the seizure of the assets by the bank, period. It's not debatable. So, you were there was an attempt to gaslight you by members of the company, by having those former employees speak, by the employees who haven't been involved in the business in years. And in fact, Kat hasn't had an employee in 2 years. She's a contractor. She hasn't had anybody working for her for 2 years. So
I don't. Again, though, like I will say, I mean, of course, it hurt my feelings what some of the people were saying. That said, I don't know that. I know some of them did know a lot, but others didn't know any of this stuff. So it's not. I don't know. I don't blame them, really.
And I would say one comment I think I do need to address is one of the trainers, and it wasn't a slam, so to speak. She said that Kat sold the business and couldn't let go. You might say, well, hey, that's fair. God, Kat's been around. She sold the business. Two things. One, she hasn't been fully paid for the business. And two, she signed a 2-year contract to provide content, which was their demand.
And be involved. Like they really, as part of the purchase agreement, which I am committed to and will honor, they really wanted me to stay as part of the community and the business, and I agreed to it because I love you guys, and it seemed like, especially at that point, that was in the best interest of the business, and I wanted it to be successful.
Yeah, and it was a condition upon the sale of the business. So you might ask, why now? So you told us you'd do it at the right time. Why is now the right time?
Meaning, why are we telling you
this?
guys this?
First of all, we think you need to know. We think you deserve to know. Second, we don't. We promised you. Go ahead. Sorry.
At this point, because we know, so on May 5th, there was this period of stay where any other creditors could come forward, apparently, and that was over, and then they could put the assets up for sale. What are the assets? Your memberships that's a very valuable asset. Who are you paying right now? I don't know. You do deserve to know. The video library that we've been working on, thousands of videos that we've created, and the people that bought the company, like, they supposedly own those videos, right? Well, I guess the bank owns those videos now. Well, that's the problem. We don't know. We don't know who owns.
And we feel like
the assets right now.
You deserve to know the facts, and you also
are you paying?
Deserve to know who your money is going to.
Yeah.
And we don't have good answers for you there.
Yeah.
I also think, look, some of you could watch this video and say, gosh, this is another he said, she said. We don't want that. And we've tried to stay factual, or we've tried to characterize anything that's not a fact with we believe. We're attaching a public lawsuit for you. I'll give you one example that is outside of this as something that you may have been told that isn't true. Sometime in early April, I believe it was, every streaming option you had went down. The apps, the website, any plugin, you couldn't work out for a day. The reason you were given is it was a technical issue. What actually happened is they didn't pay the streaming host. How do we know that? Because the streaming host, because we were such good customers for 10 years, reached out to us and asked for help in getting paid.
And sadly, they're not the only ones that have done that, reached out and said, hey, I haven't been paid. Is there anything you can do to help us? And I'm like, and again, throughout this, it's been really, really challenging to be supportive, but I had, in my heart of hearts, I had to, for the community, right? Even knowing this stuff is going on in the background, and I'm just like, oh, this is not how you treat people. You know, and then also you guys don't deserve to be lied to.
Yeah, so they weren't paid. It took them 24 hours to pay the bill. And once they paid the bill, you were turned back on. It wasn't a technical issue.
Because they had given him the last, they had tried, by the way, for months, I think, to get paid. And it was their final straw. They said, if you don't pay it by tomorrow, that's it. And it took that's it for them to actually pay it. And it sucks because, you know, I didn't like that they didn't tell you guys the truth when they did the post about this is what happened. It was another lie, and you guys don't deserve that.
Yeah. So I guess the final reason I would tell you, and this is my reason, not Kat's, I wanted to tell you personally because it's, as I said at the beginning, it's very hard to sit here and, yes, I'm biased, but it's hard to sit here and have someone you love attacked personally. And to know everything we know, I wanted to scream it from the rooftops. It was her who asked me not to. It was her who said, no, it'll do more damage. I'll just take it. And she sat there and took it for, you know, what went on far too long than it should have. And so I would just ask you who behaved with better character in this situation. And I can't think of anyone who acted with more character than she did throughout this entire process.
You too, babe. You held back. I'm proud of you.
No comments.
No comments. Yeah. So you might also be asking, why did we post this video and then turn off the ability to comment on it? It's not that we're trying to silence you or anything like that. What we don't want to start is another one of those days. We don't want another day like we had. We were trying to be on our anniversary vacation when the shit hit the fan, and last time and all of this went down just because I told you that I was removed from the group. So if you needed to contact me, you'd need to message me, right? That's what started that. And so you have a voice. Feel free to share this. Like, we're not on the comrades page anymore that we created, as you know, so feel free to share this with them, share the lawsuit. Like I said, it's public information. But and then feel free to message us if you do have questions. We'll let you know if we can answer them or if we can't. I don't really know. Unfortunately, we do have to be careful about stuff like that, which sucks, because we're pretty transparent people. But yeah, feel free to message us, or a lot of you have my number, or my email's different now, so you can't email me, but you can message me on Facebook or Brian. And I would just say, look, if this does swirl up again, I'm sorry. I am. I don't want this. I love this community. I hope you recognize how much I love being part of it. I want nothing more than to have everyone just focus on workouts every day. But I hope you can maybe try and put us in your position and say, what would you do if you were out of options? You do the option that is the most logical, which is you tell the truth. And if you tell the truth, you never have to remember what you said. So that's where we are. I love that saying. It's such a good one. All right, you guys. Well, that's what we know. Those are the facts. And as far as what's next, like, people are going to ask that, what's next for us? We don't know. We just had our first grandbaby. We're just really super excited about that. She's the sweetest, most precious thing in the world. So that's a priority. But yeah, everything that we're going through, again, is for the principle of things. So for those of you who get that, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's all I got.
That's all we got.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.